Hi, it's Dana Marie. Today I'm going to show you how I create custom fabric with a simple stamp and fabric paints. Some of the items you'll need are rubber stamps, textile paints, a palette, a rubber brayer, and a smooth, soft stamping surface. Let's get started. So here I am, mixing my paints. Now I just happen to be stamping silver on this black lining. That little bit that you see right by my hand is just my first test sample. I always like to test my paints by just dipping my finger in and touching the fabric to see if I like the color and how it's going to show up. I will often use a spray bottle just to add a little bit of water to thin down my paints because they are a water-soluble paint. Grabbing my rubber brayer, which is dense foam so you get a nice smooth coverage, I will work it through my paint on my plastic palette, getting a nice even coverage on that brayer. Just like you would paint your walls, you want to have a nice coating of paint. Simply roll it across my stamp evenly. This way I get nice even coverage so my image always turns out perfectly. I like to set my brayer down, hang on to it with two hands, press down firmly, and check my image on my sample. If everything looks good and I know my paint is the right consistency, I'm ready to continue. I will reload my brayer as needed. You don't want too much because you don't want the paint to end up pooling in the background of your stamp. Make sure it's covered evenly and simply stamp. Lather, rinse, repeat. It's as simple as that. The great thing about clear stamps is I can see right where I'm stamping. I can also see that I made a mistake. You can also come back and take care of that later by using the design opportunity to stamp another image or maybe even do a tiny bit of embroidery over top. It's always great to have a paper towel kind of moistened with your little water sprayer so that you can do quick cleanups on that background mount that you're using. I like to use a clear mount on that with that clear rubber stamp. Then I can see right where I'm stamping. The stamps come unmounted, so you can mount them on something. You may have a mounting system at home. You may have just a plastic container that you can use, and you can stick it right on there and stamp with it. I like turning them around so they're not always going the same direction, and it's, has a little bit of variety and movement. Now I am stamping here on the lining of a jacket. I love stamping my linings because plain lining fabric is kind of boring sometimes. So it just gives an added pop. It's a fun place to do, and it goes really quickly. I'm just going to lay out my back pattern piece, and I'm stamping on what's almost like a felted thing. What this is one of those car wash chamois sheets that you get at the country fair, and they're always selling a bunch of them for so much. But they're just the perfect thickness. So you don't want it too bouncy because you don't want the background, the mount to pick up any background paint. But you don't want to be on a completely hard surface because then you don't get a really good image. Okay, so now on to the side panels of this pattern. It's really fun to do my linings this way because even if I do have slight imperfections, I've been known to drop the stamp and have it just bounce around, but it's in a lining. Lots of times you don't see it, and sometimes you can just correct it with some fun other images. I've pre-prepped my inside pockets on this pattern, and I'm getting every last bit of paint that I need to complete this project. Now here's something to remember. If you're making a custom color paint by blending colors, you want to make sure that you make enough to do your project, because it's really hard to get that exact same shade if you didn't have enough to begin with. So go ahead and build enough paint to complete your project. And that just takes practice to know exactly how much you'll need. Here's some gallery pictures coming up of garments I've done. A big paw stamp, some coffee and curlicue stamps on this cute little vest. There's a detail of the coffee. I love that curlicue stamp, and I did a shadow stamp. This gecko, and here you'll see where I did drop the stamp and I covered it up with a little ant on that little blob of paint. The linings are fantastic. They added so much to a garment, as do stamps on the outside as part of the embellishment of the garment. And here's a picture of how the clear stamps look on a mount, completely clear. I hope you've enjoyed this video on stamping on fabric. It's an easy technique. Please join my private Facebook group on Facebook at Sewing with Dana Marie. All the stamps, textile paints, and fabrics are available at the Sewing Place. Thanks for watching!